So for years, I was like, you can get pregnant from sitting on a boy's lap.
Man, this shit is messing with my...
So much for joining us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to chat about your new movie.
Me too.
Okay, so I'm going to start with something that there were a lot of Easter eggs about, which is you absolutely love Bollywood.
I do.
So tell me about that a little bit.
Well, yeah, growing up, so I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and I feel like I have such a gap of knowledge when it comes to mainstream North American culture because the first movie I ever watched was a Bollywood movie. The first song I ever listened to was a Bollywood song. The first concert I ever went to was a Bollywood concert. I exclusively watched Hindi cinema growing up. And so all of the posters on my wall were like Madhuri Dixit and Shah Rukh Khan, Akshay Kumar. And so when people reference movies like The Goonies or The Sandlot, I'm like, I haven't seen that movie. I don't know that movie. So I was raised with that. My parents always had some sort of Hindi film playing. And so that's how I understood love, for better or for worse, how I understood love, relationships, family. A lot of just my ideology comes from what I saw in those films.
I love that. What was your first Bollywood movie that you watched?
Hum Aapke Hai Kaun was the first one. I remember I've seen it a million times. The first one I saw in theaters was Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. I saw it 3 times in theaters. The first concert I went to is also a Madhuri Dixit concert. I'm obsessed. In fact, currently in my home, there's a giant portrait of Madhuri Dixit in my dining room.
I saw there's like a Chole Ke Piche.
Yes, that's the exact one. It's a screenshot from Chole Ke Piche Kya Hai. So, I love the music. I love the dancing. And I love how... And I say this as a compliment, not as a negative thing, how over the top they are. I am also an over the top person. I feel like the energy I have and my mannerisms and how animated I am, I think it comes from that art form.
You've spoken to Karan Johar about, now I want to talk about this, how the depiction of women still needs to change a little bit, especially in that kind of storytelling. What would you like to see more of? Like if you were directing a Bollywood film?
Yeah, you know what? I say this with a grain of salt because I, though of Indian descent, was not born and raised in India. So I don't know the specific challenges there. I don't know specifically what's culturally accepted there. I only can do my best guess of like what it was like in Canada. I've learned it's possible for 2 things to be true at once. One is I can love Hindi cinema, and 2 is I can be like, oh, I hope these things evolve. And I think, when you reflect back on a lot of the movies I watched growing up, there were some ideas I was exposed to where I'm like, I don't know if that was the best thing. I think immediately of the scene and this is what me and Karan talked about, DDLJ, when Shah Rukh is teasing Kajol about the fact that they had sex. And she's like freaking out. And I think that's scenes like that. And that's where a lot of my fear around sex probably was birthed. It's like, it's really bad. You see Shah Rukh's not stressed, but Kajol's really stressed about it. And so that means like she's like lost something and she should be ashamed now. And I think that put a lot of fear into me, in my body. And even simple things about how in a lot of Hindi movies growing up, the woman doesn't really have choices. It's what her parents say, or it's what her male love interest says. Yes. She's also just, simple things that we laugh at now, but rolling down the mountain in the skirt, waking up perfect makeup, like all those types of things. Another movie that comes to mind is Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham. I rewatch these movies often. I recently watched K3G, and I was watching it with a bunch of friends who had never seen it before. Like, there were some of my white friends. I was like, I want to show you this movie. And, there's a lot of dialogue around parents are God, and whatever my parent says is what I have to do, even if it's at the expense of my happiness. There's a lot of commentary about that. And I love my parents too, but I think sometimes I'm like, my friends were like, is that good? I was like, you know what? I don't know. I think so I think I would love to see it evolve to a place where women just have more choices, where they're allowed to have an opinion about their future, where they're allowed to decide what their future looks like, where they're allowed to be more liberated in what they wear, and around even some of the dialogue they have,
No, I totally agree. Yeah. And now I really want to talk about the film, which is, you grew up in Canada.
Yep.
What was sex ed like for you?
We barely had sex ed. So I only have a memory in grade school. I think it was like grade 6 maybe, where they divided the boys and girls, and our gym teacher for one session was like, we're going to teach you sex ed. And they were really awkward about it. You could tell they didn't want to do it either. And it was just about anatomy, and it was about STDs. Like, we never learned about sexuality. We never learned about any spectrum of sexuality. It was very straight. We didn't learn about consent. We didn't learn anything about pleasure. It was a very, like, you should be scared, you should be careful, especially if you're a girl. Like, that was very much so the vibe. In high school, eventually, we didn't have sex ed, we had health class.
Oh, yes.
And that, too, was very surface level. It was mostly about anatomy, mostly about diseases. I don't think in my entire life, actually, anyone has actually put an emphasis on sex being a positive thing or being pleasurable or being something that's also for women. It's always felt very male-centric.
And then we've all loved actually seeing you and your relationship with your mother.
Yeah.
What was that like in the home too? Like, was sex spoken about at home? Did she talk to you about it? Did your dad talk to you about it? Did your siblings talk to you about it?
God, no. I never got the talk. I keep saying the only example, closest thing to the talk was one of my friends called me. I think I was in like grade 6. I'm a very late bloomer. Let me just address it. Late bloomer across the board for me. Anything that's supposed to happen to your body or in your life has happened late to me.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. My friend called me in grade 6 and was like, I got my period. And I was like, oh my God, cool. No idea what a period was. No idea what that actually meant. So I went up to my mom very nervously and I was like, what's a period?
Yeah.
And she too was like stressed about this. She like sat me down. It was like a 40-second conversation. And she's like, when you get a certain age, you're going to bleed. You're going to get your period. And that means if you have sex, you can get pregnant. And that was all she said. And I was like, okay. Then I immediately ran to the bathroom to check if I got my period. I was like, she must have induced it somehow. But I didn't even know exactly what sex meant.
Yeah.
I didn't understand how that worked. I was very much so that young brown girl that was like, you can get pregnant from sitting on a boy's lap. Because my mom was, for some reason, my mom was very adamant on one thing. She always said, if I ever go to the mall and I see you sitting on a boy's lap, if I ever see you on a boy's lap, you're going to be in huge trouble. She would always say that to me. So I was like, that's how you get pregnant. That's how it happens. So for years, I was like, you can get pregnant from sitting on a boy's lap. Even till this day, part of me believes it. Honestly, till this day, I'm like, there could be a way. There could be a way it happens.
And obviously Bollywood doesn't even help with this because I remember
You
there
don't
was
even see the sex scenes. For so long watching, okay.
like Hamdil Dichie Sanam, they said she could get pregnant by holding a boy's head, right?
Do you remember the scene in Raja Hindustani where
I remember
they're
one scene.
literally against the tree and they're just cuddling and then she's pregnant? She's pregnant the next day. They're literally against it. Then the next morning she's down. I'm like, oh my God, that's how it happens. That's how it happens.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes. So one of the things I really want to talk about here is, what do you think are the biggest taboos about sex among South Asians? We've talked about some of them, which is like, we're not talking about how we get pregnant. We're not talking about pleasure.
Right.
We're not talking about sexuality. We're not talking about any of these things. But what were some of the things, as you were doing research for the script, which you co-wrote,
Right.
what were you thinking about?
Well, I was thinking about exactly that. Why is the topic of sex so taboo? Because here's the reality. Like, Indians clearly have a lot of sex. There's a lot of Indians. You know, we are also the creators of the Kama Sutra. It's very much so in our culture. Why don't we talk about it? Why is it such an awkward subject? And I think it does have. I'm going to say a word, and people are going to be like, don't use the P word. I'm going to use the patriarchy. I have to. I have to say the word patriarchy. I'm sorry. Men, if you're watching this, you'll survive. Just stick with me. I promise. I think because sex, you know, when it involves women, there's this general idea around empowered women being threatening or dangerous or not right, you know? And I feel like anytime there's a really outspoken woman when it comes to sex, she has the price to pay in our culture, and that's always been the case. We even see it in Rocky Irani, you know what I mean? Like, I love Alia's character in that movie because she is so outspoken. We saw it in Thank You for Coming, which was another really good Hindi movie where like outspoken about sexuality, and there was a lot of people in India that
It's
had
actually
a
like a
problem.
thriller also, because it's like a mystery.
Exactly. So I think, I mean, and I don't have all the answers, but I think to me what it is this idea that women could enjoy sex and be empowered sexually contributes to the idea of equality. And I think there's a lot of equality issues when it comes to Indian culture. I think the patriarchy is alive and thriving. I'm not saying everyone, but I'm saying it's alive and thriving on a lot of cultures and a lot of religions as well, where it's like women just have to be kept in check and there has to be a power dynamic. And to be fair, the patriarchy doesn't just negatively impact women, it negatively impacts the men as well.
Yeah.
To feel like they have to be dominant, they have to be the providers, they can't be emotional. I just feel like sex is one of those arenas where we really, for some reason, feel so threatened by a woman who like says she wants to enjoy sex or says she wants to have sex or feels empowered sexually. I think it's a control dynamic. It's a power dynamic to keep women in check, unfortunately.
Another astute observation your film made was about how there's this like weird dynamic where like in your adolescence, in your adulthood, you're not supposed to date. And then like at 25, they're like, why aren't you married yet?
Correct.
It's like such extremes.
Yes, exactly.
And your mother in the film points this out. Like, I didn't know you were a virgin.
Right.
You're like, what?
Exactly.
Yes. There's just this huge jump
Right.
and leap. Why do you think that specific phenomenon happens? Because it kind of feels really sudden and dramatic.
Yeah, I think this is a generational trauma of no generation getting the privilege of being educated in this way. Because when I say I didn't get the talk, my mom also didn't get the talk. I'm sure her mom didn't get the talk. I'm sure there's a whole huge line of women and men probably that never got the talk and never had this conversation normalized for them. And so they're just passing on what they know, right? I think that, and that is true. I think my mom, I had the same experience. It was, you're not allowed to date, why aren't you married? And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. You never gave me the tools to even do that. I don't even know how to think about this. I'm so scared to even talk to anyone to get married. Like, how would I even do that? And I think it has to do with just the fact that they're passing on this gap of knowledge without knowing how to fill in the blanks because they never had an example. And so the reason this movie is so important to me is I'm hoping in some way it fills in that gap. Where if people leave the theater, I don't even care if you love the movie, you hate the movie, you don't think it's funny, but if it just prompts the conversation around normalizing sex, I would be happy. I just think the conversation needs to be had. I think it's really dangerous and sad, especially for everyone, but especially for young girls, to not be equipped with that education, to not know about their body, to not know about consent, to not know about safety around sex, I think is detrimental.
I agree. No, I totally agree with that. And I also think what's really interesting here is you talk a lot in this film about the double standards imposed on women versus men on their sexual journey. You know, women are supposed to feel more shame. The word sharam comes up, shame comes up. Why do you think there's also a double standard based on gender?
I mean, there's double standards with gender for every single thing.
That's fair. That's
for every single thing. But I will say with sex especially, I think it's...
Like, even with, like, the modern conversation in social media about body counts. Like, oh, no, a woman can't have multiple sexual partners.
Right. I think it goes back to, if you look at, like, the root of all of these issues is the patriarchy has convinced us that the world only works if the power dynamic is that men are more powerful than women. That is how the history of the world has... in recent history of the world, has functioned.
Yes.
Men are in control. There's a belief that men are better leaders, that they're better providers. Statistically, that has been debunked many times. It's actually, there's many statistics around why women are actually better leaders and more empathetic leaders, then there would be less war. If there was a lot of women
more
leaders,
profitable companies.
Exactly. They build more profitable companies. There's a lot of statistics, but the patriarchy keeps fighting back and convincing us that's not true. And I think sex is just one of those things where that dynamic of having power is so ingrained in us. It's another, like, not to get dark, but I think it's important to talk about. Even if you look at abuse, one of the reasons abuse is not reported, why so many women feel some type of way about reporting abuse or talking about it or even telling friends about it, is this power dynamic of, I will be shamed. You know, it's never the abuser, it's the victim that's shamed always. It's the way to keep women in check. Keep women in check. Don't encourage them to be outspoken. If we have this power dynamic over them, we can keep the patriarchy intact, and then our concept of and view of the world can stay intact with what it is. Never actually questioning if that world is good, if that concept is good, if what is that. Take a look around the world. Is what is happening good? We're not questioning that. We should be questioning that. We should be questioning the system.
Yeah, and I like that as no, I think that's a really fair point. And the mother really stood out to me too, because her husband seems to have left her, and she's like not allowing herself to find love again until her daughter
And on that note,
her.
I will really say one of the most important scenes of the movie, and I don't think this is a spoiler, I think there's a scene where the mother is watching Never Have I Ever.
Yes.
Right? And that was a really important scene for me, and I went through all the hurdles to clear that clip, and I have to give Mindy all of her roses because she helped me clear that clip. But that was so important because often when we talk about representation, and I think this is the perfect outlet to have this conversation in, is we talk about it from like, oh yeah, it's cool to see brown people on screen, and it's important to see our stories. But there's actually a really real reason why representation is important. And it's because I remember growing up and watching TV shows and movies and seeing something, hearing a piece of dialogue or watching a scene and suddenly understanding something about myself, being like, oh, I see myself in this, or I don't see myself in this, but I learned something new. And my understanding and worldview has changed in some capacity because of something I saw, because I resonated. When you're not able to see stories featuring people that look like you, that disconnect is continuous, where you're like, I'm not resonating with this. That applies to that person, doesn't apply to me. Yeah. Sex comedies when I was growing up only looked one way. You know, I grew up with American Pie. I grew up with 40-Year-Old Virgin and Bridesmaids, and those are fantastic films that were a huge inspiration for doing it, but they look one way. You know, there's a lot of white people in those movies, and I can laugh and I can understand them, but I can't resonate exactly with those experiences. And that's why I think this movie is so important, especially when it comes to sex. Brown girls need an example to look at and be like, look, I can have this conversation. I can be empowered to talk about sex. I can be empowered to enjoy sex. But going back to the Never Have I Ever scene, in the film, the mother is a single mother, as you mentioned, and she's watching Borna's character on Never Have I Ever be a single mother as well and date and all that stuff. And she's watching it being like, oh, I guess I could do that maybe. If those shows don't exist, you might not have that epiphany to be like, I can do that. Yeah. And I see myself in this. So what irks me about execs that don't want to give South Asian stories a chance, or any cultural stories a chance for that matter, is you're not just hindering us from entertainment and laughing. You're hindering progress for a lot of communities. Yeah. You're hindering our chance to resonate with something, to learn something about ourselves, to have an example, and to actually like positively impact our lives. So that scene was so important to me because I wanted to give Mindy her flowers, because I know Never Have I Ever has probably positively impacted so many people, and that's really important.
I also want to point out, in terms of the representation angle, we have the rise of the Filipino man, and I think it's really cute.
Yes.
We saw that with Freakier Friday, and now we also have this a little bit with your love interest. And I think that's just really fun, because I know that, you know, there's been a lot of debate about this, but so many South Asian women I know have been clamoring to have, you know, different leads as well. Yeah. So how did you think about casting going into doing it?
Well, I was very cautious of making sure, because I think what commonly happens, and again, I want to be really clear and say it's really hard to get stories made and movies made, especially South Asians. Like, I am in Hollywood. I know how hard it is. So I am never, ever going to throw any of those projects under the bus. It's hard to get things made.
Correct.
And I also know sometimes the only way to get things made is when you're like, all right, we have a South Asian woman. The dude's got to be white. Like, I know that that's how that gets made. So I'm not taking a crap at that at all. But for this film, I was very, very particular about her love interest not being a white man, just because we've seen that so many times. I wanted to show a different perspective. I wanted to get a bunch of Asians together, and you know, even my best friend in the movie is Pakistani, and I wanted to just do something a little different.
I think I really did love that about it. I want to talk about some of the Easter eggs from this film.
Please.
There's a hate copy shirt with Sharam.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a poster of Ranveer Singh. There's a K3G scene. What were some of your favorites to put in there?
Well, you know, the Ranveer Singh one is interesting, because I will say I directly texted Ranveer asking permission to use his poster. He asked no follow-up questions. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever, you have my permission. And he's not seen the scene. I don't think he knows that a man is dry humping me looking at his poster. So Ranveer, surprised that that's what the poster's being used for. Listen, you know what I love about this film is that so much of the community came together. As I mentioned, making movies are hard and they're expensive. One of the most expensive things in a movie is the music. If you've never made a movie, I'll give you a ballpark. Sometimes you use a song, it's like $100,000. It's like $200,000 to use a song sometimes, or a couple seconds. I have to give a shout out to Diljit, who let me use his song for $1. $1, that was the minimum contract. He gave it to me for $1. Karan Johar cleared the clip from Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham for free. Again, Mindy helped me clear that clip. Those are all Easter eggs that mean a lot to me, because that's what it takes to make these movies. It truly takes the entire village coming together. Yeah. But from a personal standpoint, I'll tell you that there's a lot of Easter eggs from my life. So my real grandparents' pictures are in the house in the movie, a tribute to my late grandfather, who was in my early YouTube videos. His picture is in the house. My mom's picture is in the house as well. The scenes that shoot in India, which is Toronto, but in India, the school uniforms are the uniforms my mom wore when she was in school as well.
And the braids.
Yes, the braids. Everything was from my mom's like childhood pictures. So there's a lot of meaningful Easter eggs for me. The school that the movie opens on is my elementary school name as well. So there's a lot of me in that movie.
Oh, yeah. I really love that.
It's very special. Thank you.
You also co-wrote this film.
I did.
You're not just acting in it, you're producing it, you're co-writing it. How did you kind of set upon that this was a story you wanted to tell? Like, was there anything that, like, any idea that left the cutting room floor or, like, kind of got pushed aside? What was the toughest part about writing this?
Well, I will say I got the script 7 years ago. I know, that takes that long to make a movie, folks, that long.
That's insane.
7 years ago, a fantastic writer by the name of Neil Patel sent me the script. And I was like, oh my goodness, a sex comedy from the South Asian point of view with a South Asian lead. Like, I am very much so fueled in my career by one thing, and that is, what can I do for little Lily that will make her proud? And when I saw that, I was like, I wish little Lily had a movie like this, because I would have been a lot less traumatized and awkward around this subject if I did. So that's why I wanted to make the movie. In terms of what was on the cutting room floor, I mean, listen, anyone who's ever made a movie knows the movie starts off very thick and very fat, and then it gets pared down because you're like, budget. There's so many things I wish could be in the movie. I'll be the first to say, and maybe you're not supposed to say this on a press tour, but I'm going to say it, it's not perfect. There's things in the movie where I'm like, I wish we could have changed that. I wish we could have done that better. We were not only under budget constraints, it's an independently financed movie. Also, we're chasing the writer's strike and the actor strike, and it was couple years after COVID. And there was a lot of things. So I'll be the first to say it's not perfect, but I am really proud of it. There was a scene that I always wanted to shoot that happened in a strip club that got cut out. It featured a move called the upside down mimosa, where this hunk guy was gonna flip me upside down. I just for my own personal sakes, I wanted that scene to happen. Didn't get to happen, but I will say ultimately I'm very proud of what has made it into the movie.
I think like people don't realize that it takes so long.
You know, that's actually what my mom said. My mom helped on the movie. She's the credited cultural consultant on the movie. She ensured all the Hindi and Punjabi dialogue was proper, all the like writing on the wall that was Hindi and Punjabi was proper, and she helped with the classroom and all that stuff. But she said that the first day she went on set, she said, I am blown away by how many people it takes to make a movie, how long the days are, and just how much work it is. People don't realize, and I know it's really easy to discredit people in the entertainment industry because you're like, how hard could it be? You're telling stories. And I agree. Like it's really fun and I'm not complaining and I'm very grateful. But I will say it's a lot of work. You're shooting for like 16 hours some days. You're getting very little sleep. It takes a lot of work to shoot one scene of a movie. Like it is very much so a grueling process.
Yeah. And I think that what's also really interesting about like this film to me is that, you know, your character is this teacher who is like rewriting the sex ed curriculum like on the fly without like much experience, but is like really putting her all into it. I think what was really interesting to me is I was kind of watching your Instagram videos and then like reflecting on the movie as well. And the vibes are kind of similar in a good way, where there's like a video you posted in July after Pride Month. And you said, hey, I really want to speak to you all. Like it's really hard to, you know, be queer and a person of color.
Right.
Here we're seeing a person who is queer, a person of color, also Sikh, also Punjabi.
Yep.
I'd love to hear a little bit from you about that. Like, what does that mean to you, and how did you bring some of that identity of yourself into this film?
Well, yeah, I mean, in the film, unfortunately, I'm straight in the movie. It's tragic. It's really tragic. I know everyone that watches it, they're like, you're wearing a dress and you're kissing a boy. I'm like, I know. Actually, my therapist went to a recent screening and she's like, I was so thrown off by how hetero you are. I'm like, I know. So, you know, there's parts of me that are true to the character, but there's parts that are very, very different as well. A few things. One is that, you know, those different facets of me have been very tough to navigate, I won't lie, throughout most of my career. Because to me, I just feel like Lilly. Yeah. And I feel like through everything I've done, these identity politics do get thrown onto me. They get like, oh, well, you're the first of this, and you need to represent these people, and you need to speak about this and do this. And the reality is like, I genuinely am trying my best always, but there's no way I can satisfy every single cause and community and issue, nor should people expect me to, because I'll disappoint you. I'm just one person and I have my own life experiences, and even though we're two brown people, our experiences are probably really different as well. But in the film, I'll say a few things were important to me. One is I wanted her last name to be Singh, and I'm very adamant that my characters' names reflect what I look like. I very often have been in situations on sets where they'll be like, your character's name is Jennifer Smith. And I'm like, I don't know how I can explain to you why that doesn't work, but it just doesn't. So her last name is Singh, which I was very adamant on. I also, for that reason as well, wanted the Diljit Dosanjh song in the movie. Because the scene it plays during is an intimate scene for me. It's like I'm making out with a dude, and then you hear a Punjabi song playing. And I just feel like, as a Punjabi person watching that, I've never seen those circumstances together. A sex comedy with a Punjabi song playing is like really special to me. You know what I mean?
I feel like Punjabi music is just global now,
100%,
which is amazing.
Thank you. That's what I would like to believe as well. Even the mother character, you know, of course, not every parent has an accent. Of course, some parents are born in America. I know that. But this story is not about that type of parent. This story is about an immigrant mother who came from India and is sending her mom back and sending her kid back to India. So she did need an accent, and she did need to be that way. The grandmother as well, adamant that she spoke a certain dialect of Punjabi as well. Because I think that very often when people think of Indian, they just think of Hindi and they just think of Bollywood. And I wanted to really showcase Punjabi culture where I could.
Yeah. And they think like usually like northern, like Delhiites. Like, I don't know. It's like, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. there's been this idea that millennials make the best pop culture. There's like this resurgence of millennial core.
Let's go. I'm down for it.
Yeah, you're a millennial. We saw some of this in the movie as well. Do you think that's true, that millennials make the best stuff? Or do you think there's just this nostalgia because there's been so many remakes, so much like Freaky or Friday?
I think I'm biased when I answer this question because I'm a millennial. I think millennials are awesome. I really, really do. In fact, my algorithm on Instagram is constantly feeding me content about how millennials are elite. And I will also say that in Canada, I host a game show called Battle of the Generations, which is a Gen Z person, millennial, Gen X, and a boomer. And I'm just going to go ahead and say that millennials are always super cool. So I do think we make cool stuff. And I will die on this hill. I'm sorry, I will die on this hill.
Okay, on that note, you've spoken about how meaningful your tattoos are.
Yes.
Can you speak about, if you can, one of them and why they're important to you?
I mean, so I have major tattoo fever. In the last month and a half, I think I've gotten like 8 tattoos.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've gotten 8. My most recent one, it's under my shirt, but it's on the center of my body right here in the center. It's 1313, which is my most recent one, which in Punjabi 13 is tera. So it's tera tera, which means yours. And is my belief of like everything is God's and everything is the universe's. Nothing is mine to begin with. In fact, every morning when I pray, that is the center of my prayers, which is everything in this life is borrowed. And it's a really good way to stay grounded in the sense of like, yes, I'm on this press tour and I have this movie and then I get these clothes put on me and they put jewelry on, I do my hair and makeup. And at the end of the day, I'm like, none of this is mine. We're on this planet. We're having this life. All these skills I have are borrowed. All these resources I have are borrowed. Don't take all of this so seriously and think this is what it's about. Everything is the universe is important. So that's the 1313 I just got. Another one I'll give you a little bit about is, I'll give you this one. I got this tattoo. It says student. And I believe that one of the most dangerous things in life is someone who feels they have everything figured out. I really do believe in this idea of being a student for life. And so whether that's professionally or personally or spiritually, whatever it is, I'm really big on learning. I want to learn from people. I never want to feel like I'm so skilled where I don't need to learn anymore. I just think learning is really important and listening is really important and giving yourself and other people grace is really important. And so yeah, I just want to learn and be a student for life.
I do have a question on that, which is like, giving grace. I've noticed, and I think you might have too, that sometimes the South Asian community can be the toughest.
Really? I didn't notice. Well, actually, I will actually speak on this, and please hold the space for me to speak on this because I know some people will like this and some people will definitely not like this. I think that to no fault of our own, just because of how we've been raised, where we've come from, the history of India, just so many things our parents have gone through, we've obviously been raised with scarcity mindset, and me and the other South Asians in Hollywood always talk about this. We all enter this industry to be like, there's only one spot for us, we need to compete. I can't support your movie because I need to do my movie and both of us can't win. That's what they want us to think. And us being so critical of each other and believing there's only enough spots for a few of us is actually furthering their agenda, not ours. And so it does pain me that any movie that comes out that is desi or any like actor that comes out or any book, the South Asian community has a tendency to tear it apart, to be really critical and tear it apart. And listen, I'm not saying we don't deserve to be critical, but from someone's perspective who's on the other side, who's trying to get these stories to be made, let me just tell you that every single person that has ever been in a TV show or movie that is in any way desi, they went to hell and back to get it made. It is probably not exactly how they wanted it to be. There is probably a ton of execs behind the scenes that told them to make this choice, do it this way. And then it's just, even with this movie, I'll tell you, there's so many things behind the scenes that I'll never get my roses for because no one will ever know about it. And then I know that Desis will watch this movie and they'll tear it apart, not even knowing the battle behind the scenes. So if you take away anything from this interview, it's that I know the things that we make sometimes are not perfect. And it's really tempting to be critical because you also want to be journalists and you want to have a critical point of view. But we are not far along enough in this industry to be that critical. And when you're that critical, you actually hinder our ability to make more. Let us make more stuff. Let us get green lights easier. Let us get bigger budgets. Then start being critical. Because then we actually are playing on an even playing field. Right now, we're not even playing on an even playing field. You're criticizing us for things where we're like, yo, I had $4 and no dream to make this movie. You know what I mean? So I really do encourage our community to, the best you can, support, go to the theater. And forget even of course I want you to go see my movie, but anything.
Yeah.
Stream the show, show up for the people, show up from our community so we get the bigger budgets and we can make the stuff that we can all be really, really proud of.
No, I've definitely heard this phrase where it's like, it'd be great for us to get the privilege of making mediocre stuff.
Exactly.
Because we're not even there yet.
Exactly.
Everything is expected to be perfect.
Exactly.
And I say the same thing. Go support your favorite people. Like,
Right.
go stream
and hey,
that in the
if you wanna be
background.
real, we have an unspoken rule amongst like all of the Daisies in Hollywood, whether it's the Calpens, whether it's like the Utkarshs, the me, the Pornas, whoever it is. If you want to be critical, say it directly to me in private.
Yeah.
Privately, I'll go to everyone and be like, yo, let me just tell you my thoughts on this. I know this was this. And they're like, yo, you don't understand. This exec made me change it. It was a whole thing. But publicly, you got to show up.
Yeah.
You have to go support the things. You have to. We have to band together.
Yeah.
Learn from any other community that's thriving right now. We have to band together.
I love that. Okay, and now that we're talking about going to the theaters to watch this film, what script, Lily, would you give me if I were to convince my parents or anybody else watching this to convince their parents to go watch this with them? What would you tell them?
Well, I would say, listen. I'm going to say it is a raunchy sex comedy. There's definitely some things that aunties and uncles are going to be like, for sure. Okay? But I think there's a few things. One is it's a very female-forward cast. It is a bunch of my co-star is an amazing queer Pakistani woman. There's just so many talented people in the movie that deserve your support. One, I think it'll normalize the conversation. If you're awkward about sex and you don't want to have the conversation with your parents, you know you're that family where you pause the movie or look away because a sex scene happened, I will do it for you. Go to the movie, you don't have to say a word. Let the movie have the conversation for you and then go home and laugh about it. Comedy is the best vehicle to have these conversations. So if you're scared to have the talk and you've never had the talk with your kid, even though your kid's probably 40 years old right now, go take them to this movie. And the good news about the uncles is they never learned how to talk about their feelings anyway, so they won't say anything. My mom and aunties are actually really excited to go to the theater and watch this movie. They told me. And I verbatim was like, I told my pua, she was like, I can't wait to see your movie. And I was like, pua, just so you know, there's going to be like gande kam. There's going to be like me doing dirty things in the movie. And she's like, I can't wait. I'm so excited. So for all the aunties that you also didn't, I'm going to look right at you. I know you also didn't get the talk. I know you deep down make sex jokes in the WhatsApp groups. I know you do. This movie's for you. Take your group of aunties, have a few cocktails, and have fun for yourselves. Do it. No shame, no judgment. Go have a good time.
So Lily, I have to wrap up soon. I'm going to ask you two questions.
Yes.
Two questions. What's your Bollywood letterbox? Like the top 4 films you can't do without.
Ooh, damn. Okay, Rocky Rani has to be at the top of that revolutionary movie. I even told Karan Johar, revolutionary. Rocky Rani, Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham is a no-brainer for me. Oh my God, tough. This is going to be really, really tough. I'm going to have to put Aaja Nachla up there because most iconic dance number of all time. Madhuri Dixit, I have to say that. Last slot. Oh my God, this is really tough. What I want to say. There's so many that come to mind. Hold on. I'm taking this question way too seriously.
I take it very seriously too.
Because, okay, I said Rocky Rani. I said Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham. I said Aaja Nachla. Okay. Doom 2. The museum scene with her thick on the white. Come on, that Doom 2. I'm going Doom 2.
All right, okay. I love it. And
I know people are gonna roast me for not saying 3 Idiots. I know many are roasted for not saying some bangers like Om Shanti Om, but those are my top 4 on the spot. I'm sorry, forgive me.
That's a really hard question. Okay, last question for you. What would you like to leave the Juggernaut audience with? Anything I didn't ask? Anything I didn't talk to you about?
First of
doing
all,
it?
I want to say you're so freaking good at this.
Oh.
You're really, really good at this. You've asked really good questions, and I appreciate this conversation because it's been very refreshing. So thank you. What do I want to leave the audience with? My movie comes out September 19th. I'll just be really honest and tell you, I don't know if I'm supposed to be this honest during a press tour. I'm supposed to come out here and be like, my movie, cool, I'm so famous. I'm not. What I want to say is this is not a big studio movie. This is independently financed by a group of financiers who are majority South Asian. Mm. It really did take a village to make this movie. I know your money is so hard earned, but any support to go watch this in a theater and not watch it on a legal satellite will actually go very far. I have put so much of my own money into this movie. I really, really believe in the message, and I really just, maybe my heart is too weak for this industry. Maybe I'm not supposed to care about these things, but I really just wanted a movie for especially young brown girls to go and just feel a little bit more normal about this subject about. So what I want to leave you with is if you have any ability to support this movie, it would actually go a long way. This is not just something that, I'm doing and putting my name on. This is my baby.
Yeah. No, it's so important, and it's been really enjoyable to talk to you about all of it. Because we need to talk about sex more.
We do need to talk about sex more. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We do. Before this movie, I used to whisper sex. I would be like, sex. I also wouldn't be able to say the words vagina or penis. I was very awkward with sex, and this movie has personally for myself liberated me so much. So if at the very least you watch this movie and suddenly you're able to say the word sex out loud, go off. That's all I want.
Or you could, if you don't want to watch it with your parents, like secretly send them yourself, and then you watch it separately, and then be like, hey,
watch it separately. Take the girl group.
trick
Take
them.
whatever,
Be like, look at this
100%.
Lilly Singh movie. It's like a funny comedy, and then they'll watch it themselves.
That's the real message. Trick your parents into Doing It. There it is. In theaters in America, September 19th. And then in other territories as well, which I'll announce.
Thank you so much, Lilly, for taking
Messing
the
with
time.
my